Wait, we're preparing.
Ooh.
And okay, here we are. Hello there.
Hello.
So, thank you everyone who's here to join us, and for those of you who are just coming for the first time, my name is Stephanie Chevalier, and I am the owner of Chevalier Musique, and I'm here this evening to do a little chat with an old student of mine. Well, not old, a young former student of mine. And I'm going to have her introduce herself so that she pronounces all of her names correctly.
Also Stephanie. I'm Stephanie Joy at Ely.
So, Stephanie, it is so great to have you here.
Thanks.
And I just have to tell something very funny very quickly, and I'm sure you'll remember this. When she was little, she would call me and say, "Hi, Stephanie, this is Stephanie." We would do that all the time. It was hilarious. Anyway, it is great to have you here, Stephanie. And I wanted to do a little chat about, first of all, about your studies in music and how you got to where you are today. So let's start a little bit about how old were you when you started studying lessons? Around about.
I think I was in fifth grade, and I had already been taking piano from like the summer between third and fourth grade, and we had found your number in like a school ad that somebody that you know put in the school ad for you, and you didn't even know the ad was running. It was like the tiniest little thing in like a little parent newsletter, and that was it. Like from 8 until the next 10 years, basically, we did lessons starting with piano, and then after about 2 years of piano, we added voice. And
Okay.
then we did piano and voice all the way until beginning of high school. And then when I got to high school, I knew that I would probably be majoring in voice. And so we kind of shifted our focus mostly to voice. But having that piano background going into college, even going into the auditions, everybody was just was super impressed because it was an extra added bonus because there's those stereotypes about singers and reading music and all that stuff. So um when I went into my audition, I specifically remember when I auditioned at Towson, which I didn't end up going to until I was working on my master's. um
That's
but for
funny.
undergrad auditions, I told them they said, "Well, what's the most recent piece that you played?" And I think it was Fantasia in D minor by Mozart. And they were like, the guy was like, "Are you serious?" I said, "Well, I don't have it memorized. I can't play it right now, but I could play the beginning part for you." And he was like,
He
"No,
loved
I
that.
believe you. I just yeah, he just thought that was like no way." So, I mean, I always encourage my students as well. I mean, no matter what instrument you're playing, one of the things I found when I went to college is that everybody had to take piano if you're majoring in music. And I was way ahead of the game. And there were people that were, my fellow, voice majors, and they really struggled. Like some of them had to take piano multiple times to even get through the, basic requirements. And I was just like, that was one thing that I did not have to stress about going into
People don't
college.
realize that even if you're a guitar major or a percussion major, you still have to pass piano proficiency. Even if you're a piano major,
Yeah.
everybody has to pass the same proficiency exam.
And I ended up taking more piano than I needed just because I did enjoy it and I was getting like, learning new pieces and things like that. But I was definitely the oddball out, having coming in with that. At least in my time, like maybe now not so much. I
Have
feel
those
like all the
skills?
kids now know so much more with YouTube
Oh,
and all
for
that.
sure. Well, have those skills served you?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a pianist, but my skills on the piano have definitely helped me out as far as, teaching. Teaching chorus, choral groups.
Hmm.
If you can't find the notes or plunk out the part, I mean, you have to be able to sing it or play it. And usually playing it is a little bit easier, especially in the lower range voices. So, I mean, just building up that skill set of piano playing and all those types of things. The more you know, the better you can teach. And I feel like when I started to give lessons when I was in high school, when you told me to stop working at Roy Rogers and start
I
giving
did that,
lessons,
didn't I? Stop it.
I did,
You have
and I've
skills.
been
Stop
doing
it.
lessons ever since. I mean, that's,
Well, you
20
had a
years of
skill. You had an absolute skill, and you did not need to be working at Roy Rogers. Not that there's anything wrong with working at Roy Rogers. That's a great job. I think, did I ever work at Roy? I don't think I did. I worked at like Pizza Hut or something. Um, but no, you had a definite skill that people wanted, and I'm so
I
glad.
couldn't even believe that I was getting paid to do. I was like, compared to how hard it was, how hard the work was at Red Rocks,
Yes.
it felt so natural and easy to be teaching and to be giving the lessons that I was like, you sure you want to pay me?
And the
um,
interesting thing is that isn't it correct when people tell you when you find something you love to do, it's you never really work a day in your life. I mean, obviously you're working, but
yes.
um, it's a lot different than if you were doing something that you really wasn't your calling or that you weren't.
Yeah, I feel like the passion just makes it feel less like it's not a chore at all. It's like when I get into work, it's like, is it time to go already? I feel like that versus kind of watching the clock all day.
That is great. Um, so I just wanted to ask you, do you play? I honestly I can't remember. Do you play any other instruments other than piano?
So I took a year of guitar
Ah,
with John, and then I actually had a car accident and I had to like tamp down some of my skill building that I was working on. That was like 11th grade of high school. And then I never really picked the guitar back up. But when I started teaching high school choir, one of my students brought in a ukulele, and I was so impressed, and I was like, "Ooh, it only has 4 strings. Maybe I could actually pick that up a little bit quicker, a little bit easier."
it's the
I'm
truth.
thinking, yeah. And she was showing me some of the chords. I'm like, "Okay, this I can handle."
This is good.
So yeah,
Look,
yeah. So
looking behind me. I got bit by the bug, and
I know.
that's only a few of my ukes. I'm like, I have one. I have an Enya blue ukulele on the way.
Ooh.
I
I
know
mean,
that.
they're just so cute and easy, like portable. Like, I can't tell you how much I wish I had gotten into the ukulele earlier
Me
because,
too. And I've had them, but but I just learned during quarantine, and
oh, yeah.
really, I picked it up so fast. It was so much easier than guitar. Guitar was so hard for me. Oh, and
Yes.
plus, both of us have small hands.
Yeah. My palm is really big, but my fingers are short.
Yeah, my ring size is like a five, 4 3/4 or five.
Oh,
My hands are
yeah.
just, yeah, really tiny. So it's hard to get that all the way around the neck of a decent classical guitar. So
Yeah.
ukuleles are definitely a lot easier. Very cool. Now, I really, really am dying to ask you this question, and you know I am. So of course, you have your degree in music because you teach music in the public school, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you have also a degree in business, which
Yes.
is not very not really the norm for musicians. I mean, you hear of musicians that, you know, doctors that are also musicians or scientists, but it's very rarely do you hear of people getting a business degree. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, sure. So I went to University of Maryland and got a degree in vocal performance. And when I was auditioning for like my vocal degree, I got a scholarship that was the Maryland Distinguished Scholar. And what I found out after I received it was you can use it for your initial 4 years of undergrad, but then you can extend it up to 7 years. So at the point when I finished my vocal performance degree, I still, I was giving lessons, and that was kind of where I was. I didn't have any kids at that point. So I was interested in business, and I was always interested in like law and business. And if I probably hadn't done music, I probably would have been a lawyer. Um, so
I
I,
can see
uh,
that.
so I decided to go ahead and try some of the classes just to see if I liked it. And since I had already finished my undergrad degree, there were a lot of those like core courses that I wouldn't have to take And so there really wasn't that much more to add other than the specific business classes. So I decided to get an associate's in business administration, and I had the scholarship, so it was basically free. And I did that, and I actually got that after had my bachelor's degree, which is
I love
totally
that.
backwards.
I love that though. I love that though.
But basically, so I had a coupon, and I did it.
I got my associates on a Groupon. Thank you very much. That was a well-earned coupon, I
Yes.
might add. You worked very hard when you were in high school. I remember that. Um, that is incredible. Now, fast forward just a little bit. Um, then you did that, and then you went to Towson.
Yes, so
Wait
I
a
got
minute.
the
Did you
business
did you
degree.
did you write for a while or
Like,
edit? Were you an editor or a writer for a while?
oh, I worked at the Baltimore City paper.
I see. I knew you did. Yeah, okay, there you go.
So I got the business degree in 2007,
Mhm.
and then we moved to Baltimore. So we got my high school sweetheart and we got married. We moved to Baltimore. I
We're
was
going to
working
talk
in
about him in a minute.
I was working in Baltimore at the Musicians Institute, which is another it was at the time another sort of collective of teachers in the area where we lived in Parkville, which is like northeast as you can go. Like if you hop, skipped, and jumped, you'd be in Baltimore County versus the
Yeah.
city. It's really close to Morgan State.
Mhm.
So we moved there. It was also only 3 miles from the Towson campus. So as once we moved up in that direction, I decided to substitute teach because I didn't have anything going on during the day. I was just giving lessons in the evening. So I really was enjoying substitute teaching, and I actually got hooked up with North County. Gosh, now I can't remember. I think it's called North County High School. It's just through the tunnel, just this side of Anne Arundel County. So I would go to the same school every day. I got a really good rapport with some of the staff there, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I would be actually good at teaching in a classroom because I ended up being long-term sub for a while, and
Oh,
then I got pregnant with my first son, and I worked right until the day that I went to the hospital as a long-term sub. And then it was after that point when I had Jasper, I was like, okay, I think I should probably either apply because I was looking for health insurance. So I said, well, I should either I was going to apply to law school or get a teaching degree. And I could get the teaching degree much quicker because I already had my bachelor's in music. So that's what I ended up doing. I applied through Towson. I got in, they had a post bachelor's degree program where you were kind of filling in the gaps from what you would have completed based on my performance degree.
did you
And some
get any credits for teaching? Did you get any student teaching credits?
no, because
Oh,
all of
that's
the and
awful.
meanwhile, I had been teaching for like privately for like 12 years at this point, and they didn't count any of that because I had not been observed by like any other
Oh,
kind of professional educator at that point.
okay.
So that was the main reason. But it only took about 2 years. Like Jasper was born 2009. I finished my teaching certification in 2011, and I did an internship with Sarah Jester at Northeast High School in Anne Arundel County and Angela Adams. She was a sort of a floating elementary educator, and I applied to all these different counties, basically every county from Baltimore County down to St. Mary's County in Maryland, like right down the middle strip of Maryland. And where did I get a job at? My old high school.
Yeah, this is just when I saw that, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
And I did not apply specifically to my high school. I applied to like generic the whole county. It
Mhm.
just happened that that
It
position was
just stuck
available.
you right in there.
And I interviewed at my old high school. Then I interviewed at another, it was a middle school in the same county in Charles County. They were the first county that called me. And so Donald and I had said he was working at the newspaper still. Um, and we were both looking for a new job. So I said, all right, whoever gets a new job first, that's where we're going to move. So we put our house up for sale. We had like a job race to see who got a new job first. I got the teaching job, so we decided to move back down to Charles County where
Back
his
home.
family and my family lives. And yeah, I've been at the high school. This is my 10th year at La Plata.
That's amazing. Now, I of course have, and we will put for anyone who's watching. We can't really tell who's watching, so I have no idea. But anyone who's catching the replay, we will put some links there so that you can catch her students' performances because I really want to bring up Show Troop next. I was reading about them and their history and their resurrection, so to speak.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit because Show Troop is really cool.
Yeah.
I love this concept and I love the inclusivity of it and the fact that it's not. I mean, there's such great value in learning classical and Western music, but there's also great value in learning music of today or music, popular music or folk music that we can all enjoy and share as well, so that you don't need any quote unquote hardcore training for. You know, it's going to be
Yeah.
mostly in English, right?
Yeah.
So please tell us about Show Troop.
So when I was in high school, that's actually where my husband and I met. When I was in high school, I was in the show troupe, the La Plata High School show troupe. It was something really unique in that area, although I didn't realize that show choir is a real popular thing like in the Midwest and as you go northwest in general. But our show troupe is a little bit of a different flavor. It's not choral singing with like chorography movement. It's more of a cabaret style group, and it's very much a student led program, which it wasn't necessarily like that student led when I was there, but I definitely took sort of the skeleton of what we had done when I was there and brought it back to life. So it the teacher that I had studied with at La Plata, she had only been gone for like 2 or 3 years before I got the position there. So they had sort of a person that had come in between, and then I came back. So I was there for a year and a half, I will say. And then one of my students, who was familiar, like because I was in an area where I grew up, I know a lot of people had been involved with community theater, things like that. And one of the students there said, what is this show troupe thing that used to exist? So Kyle Bailey was the student. And so we started out meeting as a club because when I was in high school, that's what it was. It was a club. Well, then I found out we could make it a real class. And not only was it a class, it's an honors level class. So you get weighted credit for being in there because it is intense. So our busy season is usually September through November. And in November, they have an opening night show. Usually, like historically, it's the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And that was because all the college people who graduated in previous years would come home and they would come as alumni and perform a song with us. And
Like a homecoming type.
exactly, exactly.
Great.
And we've got our special songs that we sing and we call the alumni up on stage. And it's just really nice community that we've created for ourselves over the last 10 years. And I've had students now that have started their own dance studio or they're working professionally from the experiences that they've gotten in show troop. So it's like continuing like the circle, like with you and me, same thing is happening with some of my kids, and I've had them come back and choreograph dances for the group and things like that. But generally speaking, it's very student driven, and the students have a lot of choice and a lot of say, even down to like which production numbers they want to be a part of, because some students come in and they really just want to be behind the scenes. Some students come in and they want to be like the star of the show. And so we really try and find a place for everybody and play to everybody's strengths. And usually, I'm not saying always, but usually the shy people that start in the class and just want to be a crew or a club member, they always end up on stage some way, shape, or form because they get the bug and they can't not do it. Or what we're doing just seems like we're having so much fun and it doesn't have all that pressure behind it that they just jump in and they give it a try and they're like, okay, this is not as stressful as I thought, and I'm actually having a really good time.
It sounds like it. Now, do they do their own makeup and setting or any do they are they
Yes.
responsible for that or are there other people that help with that?
So generally speaking, for the shows, they collaborate amongst themselves, and usually everybody's helping everybody with their hair. As far as like the crew people go, we usually do have students at the beginning of the year that will say, I love to do makeup or I love to do hair, and then they will come, together. We do when we're in person, we do headshots, and so that gives those people a chance to kind of experiment with what they're doing. And then opening night, we come at noon. We usually get to school at noon on opening night, and we're there working stuff, cleaning up
I
numbers,
remember Tech
hair and
Week.
makeup. Yes. Oh,
I
yes.
remember when you would have Tech Week and have to cancel your lessons.
Hell week is, I think, what we called it.
We did call it Hell Week.
Actually, my hell week is not quite as hellish as I remember it being, but maybe it is for my students.
It's all
Um,
about perspective, right?
Yeah. Well, we used to be there later. We were there later, but also we didn't have it as a class. So I see my kids every day in class
Yes.
versus like back then it was just a club. And so all the time we had was the time after school. But we were there every night and we would have a dinner break and then continue to work. So
Oh
that gives
yeah.
you an idea. I think we were there until at least 6, 7, 8. And then the night of the show, we would be there until about 9 o'clock.
Y'all were so
The night before.
committed that it was
Yeah.
so impressive how committed everyone was. The fact that you were not meeting during the day. It's very impressive that they do meet during the day. Now, how were you able, what did you have to do to get this as part of the curriculum?
Well, before I returned, they had actually added that to the course of studies for the county. And there are other show choirs in the county, but they're everybody's is a little bit different. So, like McDonough High School, which is another high school in the area, they have a more typical northeast, or I'm sorry, northwest kind of
This kind of,
yes, where they're singing and they're dancing, but it's more choreography than it is like like we have tap dancing and lyrical and hip hop and those types of things, but they're not singing while they're doing it. So it's definitely a different setup. Um, and then the oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. The other thing I was going to say is that um, with having it as a class during the day, the one nice thing that we have been able to do is that we still have club members. Like we still have kids that don't necessarily take the class, but they
oh,
are still participating. Like
nice.
the dance music video for Levitating that we did for our opening night show
Hmm.
in November, which I
I
can
saw that, yes.
post to you. Half of the kids that came for that were club only members. They're not in the class, but we
Oh,
met during our club time, our virtual club time, and they learned the dance, and everybody did, even the kids in the class learned the dance over Zoom. And we met for about 20 minutes before they started recording clips and capturing some of the footage that they used in the video. And we had about an hour total of filming time to perform it. And I think they did the dance probably like 20 times in that hour and they were exhausted. But they did an amazing job, especially for learning it on a little screen, like this, and never
mhm.
having doing it in the person. I think the hardest thing with Zoom is directional things because
It is.
right, if I say right, like on my camera, it's a mirror image, and then it's another mirror of a mirror through the lens. So
It is. It gets,
it's
yeah,
like Alice in Wonderland. It's kind of
it
tricky.
does. It
Like,
it does. I don't even say, yeah,
yeah.
it gets tricky. It does. It's tricky with piano just right and left, but luckily with Zoom it flips it around. But then when you're trying to dance, I would imagine that that's,
Yeah, so saying right and just saying go to the right, that's what I'm saying, do what I say, not what you see, is really hard with dance. So a lot of the times we would do videos where the choreographer is facing backwards so that we're kind of mirroring the
Yeah.
person, and we
So
do make like little practice videos, and which makes it a little bit easier, but there's still that directional void that you're not getting when you're in person.
yeah, that's tricky. It's but obviously it's funny. I would have never guessed that from watching the video. I would
Well,
have
that's
never. I would have never guessed that. It's interesting that you were telling me because I would have never have guessed it. Um, so are you guys going to do another show this year, or are you
Yes, we
not?
did. Show Trip did a showcase right before Thanksgiving, and then the all of the choral students put together another show right before the holidays. And so we have a performing arts showcase, which will include theater people, band, orchestra, and choir folks all together. It's just going to be a few group numbers from the classes as like a little progress. Because the one thing that, especially in this setting, we don't get a lot of crossover. Like, we don't see what the band people are doing, we don't see what the theater people are doing, but we have a lot of kids that cross over. So I have kids that also are in the theater group, or the theater group kids are also in band. So we started the Performing Arts Showcase 3 years ago. And it's really just a chance for the kids that are performing to see a different kind of performing. So it's like, same team, just, a
Different.
different situation. So
Great.
that's coming up. And then we have our spring concert will be on April Fool's Day, but it will really happen.
It will really, I swear it will. Unless I'm taking care of tech.
That's the
Maybe.
last day of class before spring break. So it just happened to
Okay.
be that day.
Well, that should be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Well, we're going to put it in the comments, but can you tell us what your YouTube channel is so that they could go to
Sure. So there's LPHS Choral Music or La Plata High School Choral Music. You can search either one of those things and it should pop up. It's a crazy picture of me from when we went to
all
New
that?
York a couple years ago. The kids were passing this picture around to me because we went to Ripley's. Believe it or not, we went and saw a couple. We saw Waitress and we saw Hello Dolly with Bernadette Peters, and we did all these fun activities. Well, one of the things we did was we went to the Ripley's. Believe it or not. Place, and they caught that picture of me on one of the like cameras, and they were like, what were you even doing? Because I'm like, kind of crazy. So it just became a thing, so I had to own it, and so that's why it's our little
It made
icon
it easy
picture.
for me to find you.
Yeah, definitely.
It
I
does.
won't look like this on the picture, but and then my private studio is Siren Song Studio for the Arts. So Siren Song, like the mermaids that draw you in with their beautiful sound.
Which brings us to I we really have to talk about this. So I was watching you on Facebook, of course. Not, I mean, I don't troll you, but like I was like, how on earth is all of this happening? How is she doing this all at once? And when I say that, I mean, so you made the pivot to online teaching at school, and then you bought a house,
Yeah, so it all kind of happened at once. So
and then
literally,
opened a
like,
business. And it's just, tell us about all this because it was just like I kept going, wait, what, what?
it was a lot. It is a lot. Like, it's calming down now a little bit, but like literally Friday the 13th, when Larry Hogan told us we were going into like quarantine, that was the day we put our townhouse in La Plata on the market. And we thought we'd be out of school for a couple weeks. I had a huge trip to Disney planned with my students.
I
It
remember.
was like 75 kids. It was like an $80,000 trip. And it's all like, big question mark. So we leave for 2 weeks and we think, okay, we'll be back. And then we don't come back. Like, and
Ever.
then they say, well, we'll decide in April. And then they decide in April that they'll decide in May. And then they decide in May that that's it. So I was doing lessons. I think I had about 25 students at the time, in addition to my full time choral music students that I would meet with during the day. And I put all my lessons on hold because this was like a whole new animal. So bit it off a chunk at a time while we're keeping our house clean with like an 18-month-old little baby and a 10-year-old boy, and learning how to do all these things. So then about May, one of my
People don't
former
understand that classical musicians we're not electronically savvy. We're not tech
yeah,
savvy people. No. So
no,
anyway, carry on.
it
This was a big deal.
it must be user friendly. I would say I'm okay with technology, but learning something completely new that I've never used without having somebody show me hands on is way harder.
So hard.
Like having to learn it remotely through a computer, like I feel everybody's pain. So, we've got the house up for sale. We're like packing up the house. I decide I'm gonna put all my lessons on hold because everybody's just like figuring life out and needing like to minimize and de-stress. So towards the middle of May, one of my former students that graduated from La Plata reached out, and she is working on her teaching degree now, and she was like, I really need help with my piano skills, and I know I'm going to have to take this test and blah blah blah. So I said, well, I'm not really super comfortable with the online live because at my school they were like, no live teaching, you have to make a video and post it, and they do everything asynchronously. They're going to do it when they can do it. So that was the situation. So I said, but if you don't mind being my guinea pig, we can try it and we can figure it out together. So we did. And slowly but surely, I got comfortable enough to say, okay, you know what? I feel like I'm slowly becoming in command of this technology. If anybody wants to resume lessons, we can, but I understand if you're stressed and that this is not the time. So out of the 25 students that I had before, like two or three of them were willing to give it a try. So I got the two or three, and from the end of May until we moved, so in the middle of this, we actually got a sale for our house, our townhouse, and we found the house where we live now. And we had a move date set for June 20th. So that was kind of perfect because school would be done by, Juneteenth, whenever, one of those, I think it was the 13th or 14th. Um, would be done, and then we can focus on the move, blah blah blah. So as we're moving, there were two or three nights where we had in between where we had to be out of the townhouse and we had to be in here. Well, our pod got delayed because apparently everybody was moving during the pandemic, and so we couldn't get our stuff. So we had those extra days where we stayed with my parents. And it was on one of those nights where we're at their house. We don't have any of our stuff because it's all in the pod. I told my husband, I was like, I think we really like this is the time. We need to come up with a studio name. And through that studio, we can do not just me doing piano lessons. We could have my cousin who studied guitar, classical, all different styles of guitar at Duke Ellington School in DC. Um, we could have Donald, who's an amazing artist and graphic designer, illustrator, who went to Maryland Institute College of Art, which is like it in this area, especially. And he wins all kinds of awards for his graphic design through work and other freelance stuff. I'm like, you should be sharing, your knowledge with students, and we need to figure something out. Well, the house that we ended up buying has this amazing 3-car garage that is not finished, but we've been working on finishing it. And literally just this week, he moved into the studio. It's a studio slash home gym slash, it will be when this pandemic calms down, a sort of studio for the arts, literally. So it will be a space where he can have, art showings, hangings of his art. Also, place for us to have group classes and for music or art or combination of things.
It's
There's
a
just the
large
sky's
space.
the limit. Yes, it's about 1,200 square feet, a little more than 1,200 square feet. Um,
You
so
must be comfortable there. You grew up having lessons in a converted garage.
yeah. Well, I'm in the home office, so I'm in the real house. But he's got
The big
his
house.
yeah. He's got his set up down in the three-car garage, but it's pretty amazing. There was no drywall up. It was insulated, but there was no drywall. It had been a the hitchman, if anybody knows. It had been that person. He owned that business, was really big down here, but he worked on cars out there. It was a mechanic's garage for sure. They had an RV, the previous owner, so they were very you know traveling type people that had a lot of like mechanic stuff down there. So it's like polar opposite to have,
Was
now
it
this like
huge?
artist studio.
I couldn't believe it. And that floor.
Yeah, so they did, my cousin who plays the guitar and uncle and Donald did the epoxy floor themselves. We have a really amazing, a friend came and put one of those slimline heater air conditioner things. It is so quiet. Like I have had a wall unit air conditioner when we lived in Baltimore. Cannot hear this. This
Baltimore
is
thing.
not that. Our fireplace is louder than that air
That's
system
great.
over there. Yeah, it's
So,
pretty
so
awesome.
what is your studio doing now? Is your student load doing now?
I have about 15 students now. And I just acquired a couple more. Because we had a recital in December, I did have a couple kids that have like spring activities, so they're taking a break. But then I picked up new students that got instruments for Christmas and things like that. And we have Lucas who does bass, guitar, banjo, and ukulele. And so he just got a new ukulele student. That is what she's doing is ukulele. So I'm just super excited. So he has, I think, about 6 or 7 students, and he's really just getting started. This is sort of the beginning of sort of his teaching journey,
That's
and then
awesome. Now, are you going to expand and hire other people? Is this going, are you going to, I guess my question is, when COVID is said and done, or we don't even know what does that even mean? I mean,
right.
because we still have to wear masks after we get vaccinated eventually, but um, so I guess my question is, are you going to continue to do some of your business online, or are you
Yes, I mean, after doing it for, 6 months, almost a year now at this point, I would say, there's nothing wrong with doing it online,
there's not?
especially for piano. Like, I feel like that is the absolute like, I also teach a group piano class during the day to my high school, students. It's probably one of the easiest transitions, has been one of the
Yes,
easiest transitions for me. Singing is a little bit more nuanced
it is.
because you're used to being able to hear them a little bit better, and just the sound quality and also like the timing is a little difficult. So it puts a little bit more onus on the student to kind of prepare and have their track ready and have this and this and this set up. So again, that's like technology kind of not necessarily holding you back, but it kind of delays the process a little bit more for singing. But that's the worst thing to do in person. So it's a double-edged sword,
It
double
is.
whammy.
It is. And the
Yeah.
weird thing is that I know you've discovered this on Zoom, when you teach, because I used to teach group classes at community college, and the piano lab, your Zoom meeting is just like a piano lab. You may
Yeah.
as well have a piano lab. I was
Yeah,
like, wait a minute,
absolutely.
this is like my piano labs that I've taught in the past. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I see a lot of us staying hybrid, you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely comfortable with it now, and I
Yeah.
think it's nice for some people. I will say right now, I have more adult students than I've ever had at one given time, and
Mhm.
I think that's due to the fact that people have this extra time because they're not being pulled in so many directions because of the pandemic. So they're staying home more, and they're like, "What am I going to do with my time? I'm going to do something that I've been wanting to do my whole life." And just never made the time for. So I think there's been some really nice takeaways. Nobody wants to live like this forever, but I think it's definitely shed light on a different way and a different pace of life that I think I'm kind of enjoying this slower pace. But
I think so too. And I don't know about you, but I have found that being in someone's house virtually giving a lesson, because you kind of are, you're sort
Yeah.
of in their living room with them. It's a little bit more intimate.
Yes.
It feels a little bit more part of the family, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have found that I think that families are making more time to make music together rather than
Yes.
just turning the TV on and ordering a pizza.
Yes. I mean, I have, out of my 15 students, I would say I have 3 or 4 families of students where I have, the sister that's taking voice and the brother that's taking piano, or, the sister that's doing ukulele and the other sister that's playing piano and taking voice,
Exactly.
so it becomes a family activity, and then, the creativity just gets flowing.
It does. They start composing things. It's just incredible to me. And even with things like Marco Polo and things like where you're going back and forth, I mean, asynchronous lessons and it's people who have started taking advantage of this time that we have and think that are really they're building a skill
Yes.
that they're going to
Yes.
have forever. And I think that people need to realize also that it's not going to be over tomorrow. We're
Right.
going to be inside and not together for a while still.
Yes.
So,
And
um,
I was just telling my husband, I was like, there's stuff that I know how to do now because of this that I'm
yes,
not ever going to stop doing. Like,
exactly.
there's programs that I've learned how to use because I had to take the time to learn them. And,
Yes.
there's things that have actually made my life a little easier as far as, like with the high school teaching, having to do everything online and grade things online. I mean, just, the technology is definitely out there, but there's a learning curve for sure.
There
Yeah.
is. And I think now that we've all been thrown to the wolves and we've sort of had to learn it, I don't see it going away. And I see it enhancing our experiences as educators. Um, just because we're able to reach more people and we're able to um, do more with a larger class. For instance, people who maybe want to be in your class as a hobby,
Yes.
you can get them information and they can join, in ways that they wouldn't have been able to before. I think that's just fabulous.
Yeah, and I think, uh, some in this area anyway, we're not right around the corner for some people, like I have a couple students that live on Cobb Island or down in Swan Point,
Yes.
and it's a 45-minute drive minimum to get to like regular, civilization. So,
It was like that
cutting
when
down on that time
isn't that
gives you that
crazy?
travel time back to do other things,
It
like
is
practice.
crazy. I mean, why would you spend an hour driving back and forth? And especially, I mean, really, even if they lived around the corner from you, if you live closer to DC or in Baltimore, it could take you that long to you could walk it faster,
Yeah.
than being in your vehicle. The traffic here is just horrible. So, I mean, you know,
And then, like in the city, you have to worry about parking and you have to worry
yes.
about security of your vehicle when you're parked. And, there's just all those
Who
things,
who
even the
wants to
wear and tear on your vehicle.
leave after dark?
Yeah. Or when it's cold, like
When it's
now.
cold, let's just face it. Let's just face it. And it was funny because when I was living in Charleston, people didn't want to go from like the peninsula to the island, and it was only 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
it's kind of silly, but it's just the
Yeah.
way it is. People in Arlington don't want to drive into DC and vice versa.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
you get back home, who wants to go back out?
I mean, the social network is of generally, the world is much smaller because of the internet, but like literally, we were giving lessons at one point over the summer to a former student of mine that had moved away. It was her younger brother, and they lived in North Carolina. So, no way he would have been able to take guitar lessons with Luke. I mean, he could have taken them, but it wouldn't have been with, somebody who was familiar that they felt
Yes.
like they could trust and whatnot. If we didn't have this situation
Well,
that
and
we're.
especially in
Yeah.
your area, I know that when I was living in Waldorf, I know you don't live in Waldorf, but for
Yeah,
example, when
it's
I was
close,
living in
I'm 10
Waldorf,
minutes.
and even
Yeah.
when I was living in Arlington, and we'll just say Arlington, when I was living in Arlington, even, I had a lot of military people. And it was really nice because I did Skype lessons for a long time before all this happened, because I had students that were military and they'd move away for 2 years and move back, and they didn't want to have to bounce around from teacher to teacher.
Yeah, because that's a big adjustment.
It is, and especially if you're only going to be gone 2 years, by the time you adjust, you
Yeah.
got to turn around and they turn around and come back or go someplace else. So yeah,
Yep.
I think this is here to stay, and I find the group class is much easier too. So
Yes, absolutely.
um, so what are you guys going to do what does Siren Song have planned for this spring?
Well, we do have another showcase. So we did a Zoom cycle in December, and that was live. And so everybody logged in and they watched. We took turns performing. We had the certain screens on, and people could chat in the and send, "Hey, you did a great job. Love you, Grandma," and little emojis and stuff. And the kids really liked it. And so we took that recording, and that's like one of our only YouTube videos right now on Siren Song Studios. But our intention is eventually, when it is a little bit safer to be together in small groups, we have that space down there, and we're hoping to do group classes for a variety of things. And really, we're the big push when we're able to be together is going to be for the art side, because that's the one thing that compared to music is it is a little bit more difficult because you're not seeing the stuff in person. So and also there's something to be said about having an art class in a group environment. Even if it's only three or four other people, you're getting critiques and feedback from people that
And it
have a
feels
totally different
safe.
perspective.
It feels safe because if you're a little bit nervous about doing
Yes.
that, when you come as a group, at least when I've done it, because I'm just not a good artist at
Yeah.
all. But I love doing it, and in a group is fun. When you have other people, you don't feel
Yes.
so, because everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah, and so we have Donald, who's amazing, but we also have a painting instructor who we've lined up to work with us, and she's planning
Great.
on doing some like paint nights for adults and
Oh
some
my
like
gosh, and birthdays and things like that. That'll be
yeah,
so fun. Go
just
away, COVID.
yeah, I know exactly, but I mean, we've got, lots of fun ideas in the works. It's just a matter of, keeping it safe, but also keeping it fun. So, and the other nice thing down there is that because it's a garage, we can open up the door and get all kinds of ventilation, whatever
That's
we
the
need.
thing. That's the thing. That's key.
Yeah. And out back we have this really cute the previous owners built steps into this sort of hill area, and they already talked about doing like a landscape drawing, like nature drawing kind of classes where they can kind of sit in and amongst the trees and things in the fall, and as the foliage is changing
It's
and things like that.
beautiful down there when the
Yeah.
leaves change. Oh my
It's like a
goodness.
nature center in the backyard here, which is where
Well,
the
we'll have to stop by and see it when we visit the
yeah,
college again. I like to visit the college every now and again.
yeah.
I know it's so beautiful. How far are you from the college?
From St. Mary's?
St. Mary's, yeah.
I think about an hour from here, but we're straight shot because we're only about a mile off of Route 5. So we're 10 minutes from Waldorf, 15 to 10 minutes from to La Plata, depending on what part of La Plata you're in.
Oh, okay,
So
yes.
we're in a good location, good spot.
That is a good spot.
Yeah.
I am so happy to hear all of that. Oh my gosh. Well, you were the first person that I thought of when I wanted to do some chats.
Oh,
Some
thanks.
music chats, because you
Yeah.
have just done so much, not only during COVID, but I mean, oh my goodness.
It's been a
And
journey.
it has been a journey, and it's just incredible what you have done. And I
Thanks.
cannot wait to see everything that is happening with your studio with Siren Song Studios. I
Yeah.
just I just can't wait. So we're gonna drop links. So anybody who's catching a replay on this, or if you want to just come back and check it out tomorrow, we'll have links in the comment section so that you can find. I was gonna call you Steph. Isn't that funny? It's You know somebody's known you a long time when they almost slip and call you your nickname, right?
Right.
You could see Miss G stuff in our in our comments
Sure.
section. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel Chevalier Musique. That would be fabulous. And then hop on over and subscribe to Siren Song Studios. All right, Steph, will you enjoy the rest of your evening? And it was so
Yeah,
great chatting.
yeah, same to you.
And we will do this